I don't even know where you're sitting at.
You're listening to Oilersnation Radio, presented by the Nation Network. Subscribe for free on iTunes, SoundCloud, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Thank you, Kawhi.
Oh, that's a hell of an intro.
It's
The guy's got
Association
really
Nation.
big hands.
He does. Big
Really
feet
big
as
hands.
well.
Man, he was so calm in his post-game interview yesterday. Just so chill.
He's always kind of chill, though, isn't he?
He is. But you think after winning Game 1 of the NBA Finals,
You didn't come to win one game in the finals.
Whoa.
You came to win all
See,
four.
Rick's right.
whoa.
Nobody was really excited. I watched Nick Nurse's post-game presser. He was super chill as well. They all were.
I think you have to be.
Was everybody at the table watching?
I've been watching. I watched Game 7 of the conference finals, and then now I'm in. So I'll watch the finals. That's my basketball career. Welcome to Oilers Nation Radio, episode 39. Thank you to our friends at Sherwood Ford the Giant. Follow them on Twitter at Sherwood Ford and on Instagram at Sherwood Ford_the Giant. I want to start off today's podcast by doing a massive shout out to our friends at Sherwood Ford for what they just did to the Nation truck. Have you guys all seen it?
I did this morning.
Hell of an addition.
Hell of an addition. And another addition that we have to the podcast today, is sitting across the table from me, is Brock Seguin from dailyfaceoff.com. He is the engine behind our fantasy site and the network. It is a massive job that he does to make sure that everything's up to date. And I know Tyler's going to yell at him a little bit later for having incorrect power play lines, but that's okay. Brock, hello.
How's it going, boys? Thanks for having me on.
You flew in last night.
Yeah, thanks for having me right in the middle of forest fire season. That was nice.
Super nice.
Got a nice welcome.
Yeah. Walked into the end of days yesterday.
Literally didn't even know the plane was landing, because you couldn't see anything, and then all of a sudden it was boom, you're on the ground because it was so smoky.
That's the best kind of trust fall.
Yeah, it was good. It was welcome to Edmonton. It was nice.
I was thinking of that the other day. What if the Oilers were trying to lure in a free agent and brought them in to visit during forest fire season, and there's is this actually what it's like in the summer?
Yes, it's always like this. Never changes. And it's either this or it's 30 below. You got two options. Smoky, freezing. Either way.
I actually don't know which one I would take.
Which one would you take? Think about it. You take smoky?
I think I'd still take the heat, actually.
Yeah?
But, it does suck. The smoke sucks. If you have asthma, Coom, don't give me looks like that. If you have asthma, this sucks.
It's not that bad. Yeah,
because you don't have asthma.
This is pretty bad.
Well, then don't have asthma. Tough it out. The other good thing about the smoke is there's less mosquitoes around. So when it was 30 degrees the other day and it was sunny and it was nice, the sun went down and it got to that nice, cool, around 20 temperature, and the mosquitoes came out.
That's a good
and
point.
The mosquitoes suck ass. And they bite you and they get in your face. But then it was smoky outside yesterday and there was no mosquitoes.
There's also nobody outside.
We totally stole Brock's entrance thunder with this.
That's
I apologize, Brock.
Honestly, there's no mosquitoes when it's minus 30 either. So
It's true.
That's a good point.
The man makes a point. Brock, you and Cam went out last night. You were a little bit sleepy today, you said?
Oh, yeah, it was a long trip. I had to go from Windsor to Toronto and then Toronto to here. It was a long day, but I think I ended up staying up later than Cam anyway. So
Yeah, you did. I was really tired. I was really
yawning at the table over the last beer. I'm like, come
emotionally
on. He's like, I'm
taxed.
tired. I'm like, what are you tired for?
I'm tired because I went on the treadmill and I had a big run while I was watching the Raptors. And then I came and picked you up at the airport and it was very stressful navigating through that line of cars. You know, when you get into the airport and you're supposed to line up behind all those cars to get into that loop, I just went around all of them. And then I stopped my vehicle in kind of the walking path when people were trying to get across with their bags. And everyone's like, what the fuck? And Brock didn't really know what he was looking for because I said my vehicle was a different color than it was.
I don't think I've ever actually seen a
I'm,
Nissan
waving.
before.
Yeah, Brock says so. He's from Windsor and he says he's never seen a Nissan before.
Not really. There's it's all big three down there. That's where we all make the cars. So that's what everybody drives. It's all Ford and Chevy. So I was Nissan, and then there's all these other cars, and I'm I don't even know what these are really.
Kias, Mitsubishis.
Yeah, some of them
Hondas,
what am I
Hyundais?
looking for? And then he's like, it's copper, which I'm pretty sure it's orange, but so
I thought you drive an Infinity.
It's a Nissan, the Nissan Infinity.
Oh, I thought the kind was an Infinity.
Remchuck's never seen a Nissan before either.
Well, no, because I saw you the other day at the brew house for trivia night, and I thought you were driving the orange.
It's not orange.
What's his license plate number?
I don't know. I just know he has a J sticker on the back.
I do.
Does Windsor have an airport?
Oh yeah, we got an airport.
Nice.
Well,
Is it a
Windsor's
good
one
airport?
Windsor's one up on Winnipeg.
Yeah, it's not very big, but we got an airport. I could have flown out of Windsor, but then I would have had to go through Calgary, which I just wasn't that interested in. So
That's
I got to
went to what?
spend
Toronto?
I took a train to Toronto and then flew out of Toronto. Got to spend a few hours in Toronto. Good city. Edmonton, pretty good city too so far. Treated me well last night.
Good. I hope it treats you well all weekend while you're here. We're going to talk about DFO in a minute, but again, I want to go back to Sherwood Ford for a second.
Yeah, you tease the people.
One thing that's very important, and frankly, this could be the biggest campaign in Oilers Nation history this summer. Dave Tippett signed on as the 16th head coach in franchise history earlier this week, and as we were digging into his history, we found a glorious mustache. This man can grow a duster, the likes of which this city may never have seen, Dan.
Yeah, I can't. I was just thinking off the top of my head. Have we had the mustache before? Like Calgary's had Lanny McDonald. We haven't really had our own mustache. That's the one thing Calgary has over us.
I think we did a little bit of work. We could probably find one. But I also feel like a lot of guys back in, say, the late 70s, early 80s, they all had that same type of thick, heavy duster on them. Now, after that, it was up to them. They wanted to take it out and have maybe a little curl on it. Maybe just cut it off at the old smile lines right there. A lot of options. But those thick ones were out there rampant back in the old days. Old Glenn Anderson. Nice.
Glenn Anderson did have a hell of a stash. Tyler's showing us a picture of Glenn Anderson.
I guarantee there are a couple guys back from the 80s.
That's not at the same level, though. That's the Glenn Anderson
like
stash is not.
That's like a Tippett one.
Tippett's is just thicker. It's a soup strainer.
So the other day, Yawney and I went on Twitter, and we decided that we wanted to try and replicate what we did with Ken Hitchcock when he came on as coach and get as many people as possible to change their profile pictures on Twitter to a Tippett mustache. Because, as I mentioned, Brock, it is fantastic. It is thick. It is luxurious. It is manly. And motherfucker looks great with it. So I tweeted that our Nation truck, the J Cruise around the city, and by the way, take a picture of that and use the hashtag Nation truck. You can be entered into a gift card draw. I tweeted at Sherwood Ford that they should put a mustache on the Nation truck. And the first thing they said is, yes, we should put a mustache on the Nation truck. And when I pull up to the office today and I see that beautiful bastard parked out there on the road with a big orange duster on the front of it.
That was beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's fantastic.
It's the greatest mustache in Edmonton history so far. Clearly.
Arguably, yes. Arguably, yes.
Until Dave brings it back.
Until we get Dave Tippett to bring it back.
Do we call him Coach Dave? I think we should call him Coach Dave.
Coach Dave? Daddy Dave?
Dave Tippett is my buddy's uncle, so actually I might be able to get us an inside track on this.
Wow.
Well, we have heard from some former NHL players, Tyler, that have played for Dave Tippett. And they were of the opinion that he might be open to growing it back if we make enough noise.
So Dave Tippett's a man of the people.
Dave Tippett is a man of the people. And if there's one thing that we're good at doing at Oilers Nation, it's making noise.
And rallying the people.
So that makes me think that there's an opportunity that Dave Tippett's glorious mustache could be coming back. I don't know.
Peer pressure. I think we can do this.
Peer pressure can go a long way. Got me to smoke cigarettes.
Don't you feel like the Oilers would like play better if you just had a dirty stash back there? Like it's just so much authority with it.
Of course.
It's an authority thing.
Of course. You ever seen Magnum PI, Dan?
Have I ever seen Magnum PI? I know. Here's my name drop. I knew Magnum PI's physical therapist.
Come on.
I don't know if that's much of a name drop.
He would fly him in. He would fly him in from Nova Scotia, and have him work on him wherever he was on set.
Do
diddy dum diddy do.
Yeah. One question I have that I think is pressing is how do millennials respond to mustaches? Because one thing we've talked about a lot with the Oilers and coaches is the Oilers need to bring in someone that can whisper to millennials. Ken Hitchcock had a hard time communicating with millennials. He doesn't understand the emoji keyboard. He would go up to, say, Jesse Puljujarvi in a talk. And Jesse Puljujarvi would be wanting like some emojis or something like that to communicate Ken Hitchcock's point. And Ken couldn't do that. If Ken Holland grows a mustache, will the millennials respond to it? Or is this a baby boomer thing?
See, I'll say that there's one person at this table who deals with millennials on a regular basis. One Rick.
I was going to say me.
From the finest.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a couple of us actually.
Well,
I may have to deal with more of them.
I think en masse, yeah, Rick probably takes the cake there. And
not only that, Dan, Rick can grow a hell of a facial hair as well. I was just going to
say, Rick has some facial hair going right now.
I tell you, the facial hair plays. You get instant respect from these little guys. They can't. I mean, you go around and look at a lot of these kids, and they're not growing it into their 35.
Hey man, I'm 34 and I can't grow shit.
Well, you've got a nice little.
Patchwork. It's patchy.
Okay, but if you just keep it nice and short this way, you don't have to show everybody how well it grows in full.
Well, that's true. Maybe
Right? You keep that going out there. You're good. I mean, a couple years ago, I did have a. I had
You had
mine
a
was
monstrous beard.
Mine was much longer back in the
It
day.
was a hell of a beard.
Yeah, I could hold straws in there.
It was intimidating.
It was fun. That was back when I had the shaved head too.
Absolutely.
You want respect out of someone? Get that big beard, then shave your head and walk around the old Costanza, just doing the long division. Make it look like you're angry. People get the hell out of your way instantly.
Brock, when it comes to daily fantasy, does a coach with a mustache help you perform better?
Like absolutely not.
I feel like he hasn't looked into this. I feel like this is a new research project for him.
It could be like, I mean, if like the Oilers come out this year and are just on fire, then it's clearly all going to be related to the mustache,
Yeah.
like without question. If you guys can grow it,
I do have a question though about the Oilers, Brock, as an outsider. We've talked about Ken Tippett. Fucking Dave Tippett.
I have no idea who he is.
Dave Tippett, we talked about him basically all last week's episode. We've talked about Ken Holland a lot. You're a Wings fan, so we're going to get on to Ken Holland. But as an outsider, as a fan of the Red Wings, looking at Edmonton hiring Dave Tippett, since we're talking about him, as an outsider, what does that look like to you?
I like it. I mean, like, if he brings back the mustache, I'll like it even more. But I think he's a good coach. Like, I mean, he's a little bit more defense oriented, which might help. But whenever you got a team that has Connor McDavid, I don't think you can really make a bad hire. It's a matter of building a really good team around Connor. And I think Tippett's a guy that will demand some respect in that locker room. And again, mustache would be push it a little further. But I like the hire a lot. I think he did a good job in Arizona, and I think he'll do a good job in Edmonton.
Do you see a big difference between him and McClellan, though?
No, not really. Like I like it a lot better than Ken Hitchcock for sure. But McClellan, I think, was pretty similar. It's just, again, they just don't have the roster to compete. You look at what the Blues and the Bruins have right now. Like, those teams are legit mirror images of each other, and they got a really dominant top line, a second line that can play some defense, a third line that is better than other teams' third lines, and great fourth lines. The Oilers are missing all of that.
So we're all on the same page here when we say the issue is the guy putting the pieces together, not, say, the coach.
Mm-hmm. 100%. Like, even like Hitchcock, like we've seen Hitchcock do really good work with other teams, and the Oilers struggle because they just weren't that good. There's not enough talent on that team, and that's because of Chiarelli, none of the coaching.
He bled it all away. Yeah, at the end of the day, I still think that Todd would still be here if Pete was better at his job.
Sure, I would agree with that. The question I want to ask is, for the uninitiated, Brock is the engine behind dailyfaceoff.com. So all the lineups that are there, the starting goalies, all the combinations that go up on the website, Brock is scouring the internet on a daily basis trying to find those and put those together. When it comes to the Oilers, how many times over like the last couple of years have you been putting shit together and you'd be like, I don't even know who this person is?
I mean, I'm pretty plugged in, so I kind of know everybody, but the amount of times that last year I would be like filling out their line combo page and be like, what the fuck are they doing? Like, okay, so we got Jujhar Khaira and Cassian playing with McDavid tonight. I'm like, that's not gonna work. And then it actually kind of did. But there were some times I'm like, what's going on? Like they had some funky line combos last year, like some of the weirdest in the entire league. And I think it was a Hitchcock thing. He's always been a little bit bizarre with his line combos. But the Oilers, yeah, they've had some guys come up like that Joseph Gambardella or whatever his name is there. I never really heard of him when he signed.
Speaking of beards,
Hell of a beard on him. Hell of a beard.
And that comes from a bet. So he's game to play too.
See, I think that now he shaves that beard off into a duster. Solidarity.
You could grow that duster back by 5 o'clock
Absolutely.
today if you wanted.
The coach might not want him there though for competition.
No, well, I mean, it depends.
Can't overshadow the
all
coach.
is one.
Yeah,
All for one.
fair.
I don't know.
Fair.
Well, JJ's going to have his in there too. Right? Juge can grow
Jujhar
one
can
too.
grow a hell of a beard.
Juge can grow one. So yeah, that's where at least the three of them, they can sit down and kind of just measure to see what's the better one.
Well,
See who
Jujhar's
grows
already
faster.
tripoding his way through life, so I mean, it makes sense that he's got that big old mustache to go with it, right? Brock, I want to go into a little bit of behind the scenes on DFO just to give people a taste of what you actually do all day. I've covered for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrible, and I say that in the best possible way. It's a big job, and I'm just kind of, if you could give us a quick breakdown of what you do at Daily Faceoff, just so people understand what goes into that website, and of course your update brought to you by our friends at Sherwood Ford. Tyler, go ahead.
It's basically you just follow legitimately every single beat reporter in the league and pray that they pass on quality information. Some reporters refuse to tweet out line combinations, which is a nightmare, but it's basically like, you follow like 600 people and you just put it all together. You grow to kind of know who's reliable, who's not, and then put it all together. Line combos, starting goalies. I mean, Tyler's mad at me already for something I've done wrong. Sometimes you can't get it right, but the power play units are the toughest because they don't always run them. They don't always.
You don't have to explain yourself to Tyler.
Well, I'm not, but it goes out to everybody. And he's not the only one that I've burned, I'm sure. But sometimes like you basically have to just rely on the last game sticking true, and sometimes they'll just change the line, like the power plays up without any notice.
Yeah, but does Tyler thank you when his team wins a championship?
No, nobody really
exactly.
thanks me.
It's true.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Explain yourself, Tyler.
Yeah, I don't think there's actually been ever a time where you've burned me, because it's usually me burning myself when it comes to my daily fantasy sports playing. But that is a good point. People should thank you more often when they do well. I've never done well in DraftKings, so I have nothing to thank you for. I have nothing to thank myself for either. But if I do win big, maybe I'll send you a gift.
Sounds good. No, literally, people will thank me, but you'll get 4 people being like, "Thanks for helping me out this year," and then you mess one thing up, super minor, you leave a defenseman on the second power play unit, and then a different defenseman saw 33 seconds of power play time, and they're like, "It cost me $9,000." It's no, it didn't. He played 33 seconds. Relax, it didn't matter at all.
That's kind of sports media in a nutshell, though. You can be right about 100 things, but the second you're wrong about something, that's when your mentions are being flooded with the scum of hockey being like, "You're a piece of shit. I hate you. Quit your job."
Yeah, they definitely come out of the woodwork when you make an error. That's the only positive about having Daily Faceoff's Twitter suspended is that I have 1/40th of the people following me, so less people can yell at me when I do something wrong. But other than that, it's been a nightmare.
Looking at the feedback, what is the thing that if you mess it up, you will take the most shit for?
Oh, if you mess up a starting goalie, it's over. You're getting buried. People because some people are relying on me to put really, really expensive bets down, right? People are relying on me with all their money, and you mess it up a little bit. And sometimes it's I don't make mistakes, it's just changes. You have a guy listed as likely, and then the coach will be like, "You know what, I'm going to start a different goalie," and then he throws a different goalie out for warm-ups, and then if a buddy doesn't see that, he doesn't have time to change it in the 30 minutes between the warm-ups and the start of the game, then he just toasts you.
I'm a big fan of that slogan.
I was going to say,
mistakes.
I've got a title for this week's
Changes.
episode is I don't make mistakes.
I don't. Hey, I'm just relying on other people's information. They pass it along. I pass it along to my followers, and then if the coach decides to make a change, that's not my mistake. That's a coach's change.
So is it a daily routine for you, every day at 6:55 Eastern until 7:55 Eastern when all the games are getting going, especially on a Saturday? Are you just glued to your Twitter, refresh?
Yeah, it's I love doing Daily Faceoff, but the one thing that sucks is if you go out for dinner and it's 6:25 and you got there's a bunch of 7:00 games and 6:30 is about to roll around, you're out to dinner with a girlfriend or whatever, and you're just sitting on your phone, you look like that dick in the restaurant, sitting there with this girl and he's on his phone the whole time. People probably hate me, but yeah, then you got to confirm goalies from your phone, which is never that fun. It's obviously easier on your computer, but you got to still have a life. But it's you hope the days where it's 2 games and you confirm all the goalies by 2:00, it's I get to go do something. This is nice.
If someone ever gives you crap at a restaurant, you just scream, "Do you know who I am?" And I think that would probably solve your problem.
They'd be like, "I've never."
Sure,
heard of your website."
Tyler's been flexing that one for a while. It
People
works every
react
time.
really well to "Do you know who I am?"
100%.
That's a huge one.
A little bit earlier, I mentioned that Brock is a Red Wings fan. As you all know, if you're listening to this, the Edmonton Oilers just hired Ken Holland as their new general manager. He was the GM in Detroit for 22 years, with the organization for 36. Is this a good hire for the Edmonton Oilers?
Yeah, I think it is. I've always liked Ken Holland. The biggest issue with him was just the Red Wings' immense culture and that playoff streak. I mean, you're trying to patch things together to keep that playoff streak alive, and it's easy to say when it's done that it was a mistake, but even for me as a fan that's pretty plugged in, I still wanted the playoff streak to keep going. It was exciting. 25 years of making the playoffs, it's so impressive, and I never really faulted him for trying to keep it alive, but it ended up being his biggest downfall, where he comes to Edmonton and he's got no personal ties really. He has nothing holding him back from making moves. He was scared to get rid of guys like Daniel Cleary because he'd been so good for the organization for years, but when it was time for Dan Cleary to move on, they kept him probably longer than they should have, and stuff like that just kind of hindered the Red Wings in Detroit. But coming to Edmonton, kind of a new slate. You've got Connor McDavid. It should be pretty easy to put things together, and he's a smart guy. I think Ken Holland will do a good job. Getting him away from the culture a little bit will be huge for him, in my opinion.
What does Ken Holland do well? I mean, we just came off of 4 years. 4 years with Chiarelli, 3.5, whatever it was.
3.5, yeah.
We just came from an era where the GM was just complete garbage. He was terrible. The 1-for-1s were bad. The
Everything
attempts to
was bad.
find defense were bad. The signings were bad. What does Ken Holland do well that can maybe ease the worries of some Oilers fans that they have thinking this is another guy who has a history to Hockey Canada, another guy who knows Bob Nicholson. Is this the same guy in a different form?
I don't think it's going to be a popular answer, but I think the one thing that he does well is he's not like he's a pretty rational guy. Like he's not going to go out and make these big crazy trades. Like he's pretty, as a general manager, he's pretty boring. He tries to make small, smart moves rather than like he would have never traded Taylor Hall.
He sounds like it would have been perfect had he got here the day we got Connor.
Yeah, like he's smart. He's careful with what he does. He's not gonna make irrational moves to try to like save his job or anything. It's just like he'll make small moves. He'll be smart. He'll be methodical in his approach in building a winner. So it might not be popular. People would like to see those big trades, but they haven't worked well for you guys in the past. So maybe a different approach might help a little bit. But I think he's just kind of a smart guy who goes about his business the right way. And it might take a little bit longer than some people are willing to wait, but I think just the way he approaches it, from a smart standpoint, is his biggest asset.
I need to point out something that's really hilarious. I don't know if you could pick it up on the mics, but somebody at Little Brick, there's a piano here, jumped on the piano and just started playing Mad World as Bagged Milk was explaining what Peter Chiarelli did to the Edmonton Oilers, and it was so hilariously fitting, describing his tenure as the GM with Mad World in the background. That's so poetic.
Yeah, things just kind of go hand in hand well here too, don't they?
I'm just thinking now how nice it would have been, like Rick just mentioned, if Ken Holland had come around in 2015. Because I always say, like, the perfect thing for the Oilers would have been if they had kept Steve Tambolini as their GM throughout this, because he just sat on his hands, right?
He didn't do anything.
So imagine they don't make the Griffin Reinhart deal, they don't make the Taylor Hall deal, and the team's just, like, stupidly loaded with talent.
Well, what do we think Ken's philosophy is? Because we kind of knew what Chiarelli was going to come in. He wanted to get bigger, heavier. What can we expect when it comes to Holland? Because if you say he's going to get bigger and heavier, we're all going to start looking for the bridge. So what do we expect out of Holland? What kind of players is he going to bring in?
I think you're looking at a smaller team. You look at what the Red Wings have kind of done over the last few seasons. All the defensemen that they've drafted and stuff are small offensive guys. You got guys like Larkin. The Red Wings don't have a lot of big bodies, so he's kind of really made a move to try to draft a lot of the smaller guys, speed guys. And I think that's what you need to surround Connor McDavid with. I mean, fastest guy in the world. So I don't think he would be a guy that's going to go out and sign like a Milan Lucic like Chiarelli did, but it's just I think you'd expect to see some smaller offensive guys because that's kind of the way the Red Wings have went. They've really attacked people with speed for the last few years, and I think that's what kind of a product of Ken Holland. So
how do you think he's going to do in terms of bringing in secondary players? Because right now we kind of have the top end guys. Our defense isn't the worst, but what we need is secondary scoring, and we need to start filling out the bottom 6 to 9 players.
To put it another way, 61% of the Oilers' goals last year came from 4 players. That's a problem. That's a real problem. So, what does Ken Holland do? How does he fill holes?
Again, I think it's just patience. You got to take it easy. You got to go slow. You got to draft right. And if you do that, you make your small signings here and there and try to build it up slow. It's probably the way he's going to approach it. And he's not going to do anything crazy. He's not going to try to go out and sign 9 free agents this year to build out your bottom 9 forwards. It's just a slow, methodical approach is the way he's going to go about it. The Red Wings have always prided themselves on drafting well. I think you'll see a new kind of focus on the draft from the Oilers' standpoint, really building through the draft, because that's how Holland's done it his whole career.
If I want to fire one more at you here, Brock, is there anyone on the Red Wings who you think might be available this summer via trade that you think Holland might target and who would make sense in Edmonton?
Available, I'm not really sure. It's a bad answer, but I bet you Holland loves a guy like Justin Abdelkader to come in and be like a 4th line guy, which would be a huge mistake for him. But like that's the one thing is like I would hope if I was an Oilers fan that he doesn't go to Detroit and try to get anybody, because it's gonna be players like that he's been loyal to, and that's what you guys are trying to get away from right now, is that Red Wings loyalty. If you can just keep him as far away from Steve Yzerman as possible, it'd probably be in your best interest, because he'll end up going for a guy like Nicholas Kronwall or Justin Abdelkader, and it'll just be a total nightmare. But maybe Luke Glendening as your fourth line center. That would probably be the most logical player who's half decent contract, and he seems kind of like a Red Wings guy, a Holland guy. So I'd say Luke Glendening would be my answer, but again, I'd try to stay away from Detroit.
If you were Steve Yzerman, and let's say I'm Ken Holland, and I come to you with Chris Russell for Darren Helm, do you say yes or no to that?
I would say no.
Really?
Just because the Red Wings depth is on the blue line in terms of prospects. Mm-hmm. What the Red Wings need to do right now is just try to clear room for some of these young guys to come up, which they have so many bad old dudes on the team that young guys can't come up. So trading for Chris Russell to fill another spot on the back end behind Trevor Daley and Kronwall and DeKaiser and all these guys who aren't good just limits the amount of quality young prospects like Philip Roenick or Chalowski that we can have playing on the roster.
I've had that proposal sent to me countless times, so I just wanted to get a thought on it because I don't know much about Helm or the Wings. So.
Yeah, honestly, Darren Helm's not very good. He's super fast and he's got the worst hands ever. So he'll get he used to get breakaways, it was going out of style and just could never score. He's just not a very good hockey player.
Just depends how much Detroit needs a cowboy, man. How badly do they need that cowboy?
Everyone needs a cowboy.
One thing I want to ask, last thing I want to ask about the Red Wings is the Oilers have had a long history of rushing prospects to the NHL. We've often heard about the Detroit model. We've often heard about how they let their picks marinate a little bit and then come up when they're ready. Can you tell us about Holland's philosophy for development once guys are drafted?
Yeah, I think you'll definitely see a much more patient approach in Edmonton. Even you look at a guy like Philip Zadina, highly touted prospect that dropped the Red Wings last year. A lot of people expected him, including myself, to make the team out of camp. He struggled a little bit, and they sent him down. And he spent the whole year in the AHL pretty much, came out for an 8-9 game stint there. So his first year didn't get burned, and then went back down. And he played the whole year there. And that Chalowski started the season, played really well with Detroit, ended up going back down to the AHL to work on his craft a little more. So definitely, unless a guy is just a bona fide stud, he's going to the AHL or back to juniors to sit for a year, maybe two, maybe more. He's very patient, and I don't expect him to change that philosophy in Edmonton.
Because we do have, especially on the back end now, the Oilers are starting to have some prospects that are knocking on the door. So I'm curious to kind of the Bouchards. Is he going to spend more time in the AHL now that Holland's here, as opposed to if Pistol Pete was still here? Logic would kind of make you think yes, but we don't know. Oilers fans have been hurt before, Brock.
I think it could be a lot, especially with Bouchard, it could be a lot like what they did with Chalowski last year. I don't think the plan was to have Chalowski play 50 games in that team. They really just brought him up to see what he could do. He made the team, and he played well, and he stayed. And that's kind of, I think, what he'll do. Bouchard will get his 9 games or whatever, see what happens, and then they'll make their decision from there, whether or not he's ready or he should go back to the minors.
I can see Bouchard making it next year.
I wouldn't be surprised either.
I wouldn't be surprised. He was a point per game in the playoffs for the Condors.
You could put him that third pairing, even put down Secker down there, somebody with him. Let him go out, do the power play 2 for a little while, move his way up to power play 1, give him that sheltered 5-on-5 time. I think it'd be okay. The interesting thing though is it pushes a couple other righties back. What happened? What do you do with Bear then?
Yeah, you got to. I think there'll be some signs of their planning if they are looking at that as to transactions that they make in the offseason.
Well, I know Dusty was floating the idea of trading Bear just because of the depth chart.
Yeah, I can see it. Honestly, you're running into a point right now where your defense is fine. If you're going to do anything outside the organization, you have to start going for forwards. And our assets right now are on the back end. So somebody like Bear, if there's someone out there that wants them,
it's time. We've suggested this many times on the podcast. I think the play for the Oilers in the offseason is to sell high from the position of strength on the back end. And I mean, if you can get a solid forward for Matt Benning, or if you could get a very good forward for Darnell Nurse, then I think you got to pull the trigger given the position you're in.
Yeah, you just have to look at the youth, right? On that left side, you're going to have Samurikov, who I think took a lot of steps forward this year and has kind of made himself a legitimate prospect, and Caleb Jones. So you got 2 solid lefties there. On the right side, you're going to have, like you guys said, Bear and Bouchard. I think, honestly, this summer, especially when you consider that Klefbom and Nurse are still there and still on higher up in the depth chart playing in the NHL right now, I think you can sacrifice maybe even a lefty and a righty And I mean, you're going to have draft picks this year as well. You're going to have a second rounder that you could always use to pick a defenseman as well. Like, you can keep stocking the cupboards, but I think right now it's at the point where you have enough of the guys who are just kind of middling and like could be an NHL or could be an AHL this year that I think you should capitalize on that value and try to add to the forward core, which is like incredibly depleted, obviously.
If Bouchard's ready, especially, like, there's no reason to keep Bear around. You don't want him sitting there as your seventh defenseman or whatever, not playing. Or Bouchard's good enough. You want your best players playing, and if he's there, he's ready to go. Then make a move and try to better the team instead of having somebody good sit. And you see, like, I feel like the Leafs have done this sometimes. They let these guys sit and then they trade them when their value's at their lowest. Where like Bear could still be dealt for something quality right now because there's still that kind of uncertainty about who he is and how good he is. But he's still a highly touted guy.
Yeah, and I think right now his value is going to be the highest it has been ever. Now, obviously, it could go up if you get him into the lineup next year. But right now, it could also go down. Mm-hmm. Right? If he doesn't prove himself next year, then you got to take a chance on him. And yeah, that's a guy I'm going to move. And you've got those two Swedes behind all these guys as well that we didn't even bring up yet. Like, our defense is fine. We got to sprinkle some of these and get some forwards out of it. Go find that Patrick Maroon trade. Go find another Drake Kajula. Some guy who's going to get paid like 1.5 and be a guy who can play on your first, second, third, or fourth line.
Just an applicator.
I think what you're saying for Bear is that hanging around stinks, right, Dan?
Yep.
Waiting for your chance is awful, and it stinks, and nobody wants to do it.
Smokey the Bear.
Smoky, it stinks, and everything needs a fresh look. Kind of like what you'll get from our friends at thepogstore.com. Brock, let me tell you about Pog. It is a deodorizer that is going to kill 98% of household odors caused by bacteria and fungus. There's a wall unit, there's a portable unit, there's a fridge unit, anything that fits your life. Out in Windsor, I'm sure it stinks out all the time. That's why you need to head to the Pog Store and freshen and purify the air around you naturally using the power of ozone. It'll eliminate odors without the use of dangerous chemicals. Head on over to thepogstore.com and try their 30-day odor-free challenge.
We had the genius idea before the podcast started where we thought if we just hooked up like 2,000 Pog units,
if we just start plugging them in all over the city, that'll clean up all the smoke.
We may have been able to play baseball at Prospects game last night.
Game did get canceled.
It did get canceled.
You may have seen a photo of show producer Tyler Yaremchuk standing on the field, and it looked like the end of days. You couldn't see Tyler. It was nice. I liked it.
You couldn't see anything out there.
Couldn't see anything. Pog, hey, we're just saying, if you got a couple of thousand extra units laying around,
let's plug them in.
Let's give it a try.
You're the hero we need.
What's the worst that could happen?
As far as I'm concerned, there are no downsides to this plan. Zero. None. Head on over to thepogstore.com and make the city smell fresher. Let's work on this today. Today is May 31st. It's a great plan. Dan, good job. This morning, one Jason Gregor broke some news. We wrote about it on Oilersnation.com. The Oilers made a couple of changes to their assistant coaches. Trent Yawney and Manny Viveiros are leaving, while Glen Gulutzan will be staying on, specifically tasked to run the power play. I want to go around the horn and just kind of talk about that and what you guys think. Good moves, surprising, not surprising. Dan, what do you think?
It's just a confirmation, I think, of what a lot of people said last year, which was just the summer was just stupid. Getting rid of assistants like that was going to fix all the issues the Oilers had. It was just another Band-Aid move by Pete Chiarelli that saved his job for an extra 4 months. And unfortunately for Yawney and Viveiros, this is the price you have to pay. That's 4 coaches by my count now in the decade darkness plus that we've gotten rid of that have a future. I think that should have another chance somewhere else.
It's just bad luck of the industry though, because when you start bringing in a new GM, a new coach, you kind of understand that they're going to want their guys in charge.
Of course.
And I know it sucked that Ralph had to go that way, but I kind of understood that from new GM wants somebody that thinks along the same lines. Here you go. These two guys work together. So that it sucks, but they bounced back. I think it worked out well for Ralph. Going over to England, it probably added to his resume quite a bit, and he's a lot better for it now.
And same thing with Todd Nelson too. He did well with the transition, and now he's interviewing for Anaheim's job.
It's him and Eakins going up against each other, ironically.
Yeah, fair enough. Eh? One guy that we didn't cut fast enough, and then one guy that we cut too fast.
Well, Eakins was key in the Oilers acquiring Connor McDavid,
well,
so we should give him some praise.
Massive part of that. It was all about the defensive swarm, though. The swarm.
It was all about chopping wood and carrying water. It was was about carrying water and chopping wood, or chopping water, or whatever he said.
Throwing
And getting rid
water
of
bottles.
ping pong in the room. That was key, too.
And
Players aren't
donuts?
allowed to play ping pong.
No more donuts for the media.
No
You
more
can't forget that
donuts.
part.
Yes.
The media was less sweet.
If
It was strict life back then.
if old Dallas didn't come in and eliminate ping pong and donuts, there'd be no Connor McDavid right now. What would we be talking about? We talking about Dylan Strome being the Oilers' #1 center?
And
That's
our
terrifying.
18th championship in a row.
Tyler doesn't like the idea of Dylan Strome being the first line center.
Just because that the whole history of the organization could have gone so sideways if that draft order
What do you
held.
mean? Like it hasn't gone sideways?
I know,
Mayo?
but it could have just been worse.
It's a great point, Bag Milk.
I mean,
Things
I know, but
things haven't been
sometimes
so
you just
good.
need the gentle reminder of how lucky we are.
As
that
far
we
as
have
con-
McDavid.
to beaten Calgary in the last game of the season and had Capo Caco coming into the line.
yeah, but again, we talk about that. We can't think
I
that
know,
way. You can't
I
tell
know.
them to lose and blah blah blah. They could have lost any of the other games as well. I don't know. What do you want me to say? It would be nice to have Capo Caco. First of all, his name's great to say. It's a lot of fun. Who doesn't want to say
Kevin
Capo
Quinn
Caco?
with that name? Hello.
Oh, Capo Caco, and you put Puljujärvi on the same line, and you just watch Kevin Quinn struggle through it for 40 or 80 games a year. I love it. Why not?
I think at the end of this, we can just blame the Calgary Flames for being that bad.
We can blame the Flames for everything,
Yep.
as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
The reason Glen Gulutzan's here is that he throws his stick way up in the stands. People like it.
Hell of a throw, though.
It was a hell of a throw.
Can't discount that.
Threw a bunch of F-bombs. Why not?
Smashed the bat flip by Batista.
Of course. Everybody loves it. I mean, the Saddle Dome is a terrible arena, and nobody should ever go there ever for any reason. But perhaps throwing a stick up there maybe broke something and improved it somehow. I don't know. The only reason to go is, of course, for a nation road trip because they're a good time.
And
And
speaking of angry coaches, you know who they're talking about replacing, right?
go ahead.
Jim Playfair.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You remember what he did? in
Absolutely.
Abbotsford?
When he stripped,
Oh, he smashed his stick against the board. He started taking everything off.
you know what? There's two things that we need. One, Dave Tippett duster. Second, if things start going squirrely, Playfair just starts stripping. That's like from Slapshot. Remember?
I love it. I see where we're going with this, and I've been on board. I've been drinking the Kool-Aid for quite some time right now, and I'm just doubling down. I'm ready to go.
There's nothing that would be more inspiring, at least in my opinion, than a powerful mustache and a coach that's willing to strip.
Take it all off.
Hey, you don't know what's going on? Bad calls, maybe a missed challenge. We've seen plenty of those in our day. Start stripping. Take it off. I'll throw loonies. Why not? I'll bring a handful. Nobody throws hats anymore at Rogers Place. We're all throwing loonies at Playfair.
Oh man.
All right. Well, gentlemen, the Stanley Cup Finals kicked off this week as well. Did a little Coombs trivia down at the Brew House on Monday. One Tyler Yaremchuk was there, Christian Pegnani was there, and of course Coombs was there, doling out prizes and a little bit of free knowledge on a Monday night. Bruins and Blues are now tied, going back to St. Louis. I'm curious what you guys think of the series so far. Brock, I'll start with you. Do you care about this series? Do you like it? Are you bored? Do you have a prediction? What do you think?
I like it. I picked the Blues to go to the finals at the start of the playoffs, which was nice. But I also had them going up against the Lightning, which wasn't so nice. But no, I really like this series because, like I said earlier, they're built so similar. They are literally mirror images of each other. I'd say that the Blues are probably the better 5-on-5 team. We've seen that Shen, Tarasenko line just dominate the Bergeron line so far, which has been literally the most important part of the entire series so far. But then you just, they lose game one because they couldn't stay disciplined, couldn't stay out of the box. So many dumb penalties. I think, if they get Vince Dunn back, that'll be huge. We saw, Gunnarsson scored the game winner of the day. Edmonton, though, has had a tough series so far. So getting Dunn back will help, but I really think the Blues can take this, but it's going the distance in my opinion. They're built too similar, and we've seen how many times Rask can steal a game. Like, he's been so sensational all postseason that I wouldn't be surprised if he steals a couple and this goes 7, but Blues and 7 for me.
I think if they had lost game 2 the way that they played, then it would have been over. Like, they thoroughly outplayed the Bruins.
Yeah, what was the shots, like 37-22 or something?
Yeah.
Like, they
It was
dominated.
the opposite of game one, because in game one, they got
Was.
that 2-0 lead, and they were getting spanked.
Yeah.
But St. Louis has overcome everything so far.
Well, they were in last
Bad
place in the league like 3
pass.
months ago.
Exactly. They've overcome so many things this year that I think they're going to win. And even if they did go down 2-0, they still had to go home. I still wouldn't have been off it yet. This is a great series. Like Brock said, they're mirror images of each other. They're fast. They're physical. We're seeing hits out there. In the first game, St. Louis was a little excited. Last time none of these guys were even alive last time St. Louis was in the finals. These guys, you kind of understand it. Boston's been there. they're able to, sit back and take it a little bit. This series will go down. It's going to be bloody. It's going to be messy. It's going to be fantastic to watch. I don't hate either team.
We're all cheering for the Blues, right?
Honestly, I don't care.
Like, I want to see, like...
I want to sit back and watch a 7-game series.
I'm
really
sick of
good
watching
hockey.
Boston teams win championships. I'm just
Okay,
over it. They keep winning.
Yeah, that
I want to see Patrick Maroon win a Stanley Cup.
And St. Louis's
And Colton.
roster is like
My friend
so
Colton.
Canadian.
Yeah, there's
So Canadian.
so
They have
many-
like 75% of their roster is Canadian, and I think Boston's got like 4 or 5 guys.
tons of ties to Edmonton on the St. Louis roster. You got Jay Bouwmeester, you got Colton Parayko, you got Patty Maroon, Oilers legend,
DP.
David Perron. Don't forget
Everybody
about him.
loves DP.
Yeah, it's a like an endearing team for an Oilers fan to care about.
And Joel Edmondson sounds like Joel Edmonton.
It's like if you're drunk and you're saying I'm Joel from Edmonton.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like basically. There's Joel Edmondson.
Did you guys see who's been at both Game 1 and Game 2 as well? Friend of the nation.
Robert
Larvinen?
Kraft.
Larvinen.
Oh.
He's been at both games. He was up on the big screen during Game 2. He's for those of us who don't know, you can go back and listen to his episode where he talked to us. But he is a huge fan in Finland. Probably I'd say the Finnish hockey super fan. And he, fresh off of watching his team win the World Championships, came over and got to see a couple games in Boston. So that's cool.
Another cool thing I think about these two teams in the Stanley Cup Final is they make it seem to me like the Oilers aren't that far away from being good. Because what St. Louis and Boston both are, and I think either Rick or Brock alluded to this earlier, is they're both really contingent on having one big line. And if the Oilers could get one more really good player to play along with McDavid and Draisaitl, thinking like maybe a William Nylander type, and then add some depth to the lineup, their blue line's right there. And they can be good. They're not that far away from being a good team.
That is a good point. Like, I mean, okay, St. Louis does have Pietrangelo, but look at Boston's blue line. Like, Krug is really, really good. But, I mean, the rest of that is just kind of young guys who stepped up and then the aging Zdeno Chara.
And it's your one amazing line.
And it's your one amazing line up front. But that Krejci-DeBrusk line is pretty solid as well, right?
From an analytics standpoint, that Krejci-DeBrusk line is insane. Like, they give up literally no scoring chances ever. And, like, they're pretty decent offensively. That Coyle, Johansson, both those pickups were so under the radar and so good. That third line has been unbelievable for Boston. I think, like, you could say that the Oilers aren't too far away, but, like, those teams are really, really, really deep. Like, we were just saying how they barely have any forwards in Edmonton. Like, those teams have 12 great forwards. So I think you're getting a little bit ahead of yourself.
I
fly
feel
this
like
guy
you
in.
haven't watched Colby Cave.
Yeah, you've don't tell me you've watched Josh Curry or Joseph Gambardella.
We
take a
fly-
hard shift.
We fly this guy in, and he just takes a huge dump on us. On how
For the first time ever, Coombs trying to get optimistic on the podcast, and Brock just kicks me.
Sorry,
Kicks me down.
I feel like what Kuhn was kind of trying to say, though, is that, like, the heavy lifting at Edmonton is more or less done, right? Like, you have that high-end, all those high-end pieces kind of locked in, and now it's just sprinkling around enough talent. Maybe you need one more high-end winger to either put on that top line or put with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, but for the most part, like, the heavy lifting is done. Now you just need to clear out cap space and find good supporting pieces.
The three centers that you guys have, you've got the foundation.
Yeah.
You got a solid blue line, and those three centers are phenomenal. Like, you could be the Bruins or the Blues with those three centers for sure, but there's a lot of pieces to go around them. And hey, maybe you'll just call a goalie from the AHL who will go 25-2 and stand on his head for 4 months in a row.
Stuart Skinner.
Speaking of goalies for a second, the Oilers goaltender, Mikko Koskinen, a lot of worry around here. What do you know about Mikko Koskinen, Brock? And is there anything you can say that makes us feel better about our goaltending situation?
I mean, he freaks me out because his stick's so small. That's always just weird to me every time I watch that. But no, he's a good goalie. I think he's solid, but he's not gonna. I mean, you're not gonna get carried to the finals with Mikko Koskinen. The only issue with him is his age. For me, he's what, like 31, gonna be 32 next year, I think.
Goalies in their 30s often get better, yes?
Yeah, Tim Thomas,
See?
but
Do you have another example?
that's it. That's all I got. Yeah. But no, like I mean, Koskinen's fine, but the issue is, I don't think Koskinen is going to carry the Oilers to the finals. There needs to be a better goaltending option. I think Koskinen's a fine platoon goalie. I think he can be fine if he gets 50 starts, but he's not a guy that's going to go out there and start 65 games and win 40 for you.
You talked about Holland liking familiarity. Could you see him going after a guy like maybe a Mrazek or somebody that he knows from his time in Detroit?
Potentially, I think that Mrazek's a pretty good option. A lot of people don't like Mrazek. I've always been a bit of a Mrazek truther. A lot of my Red Wings buddies hated him. He's just a fun dude. He's really good when he's good, and he's really bad when he's bad. He's another guy that needs to just be in a bit of a timeshare. So maybe you put him and Koskinen together, two totally different styles. It might work. But he played great for Carolina in the postseason. But he gets bit by his aggressiveness. He comes way out of the net because he's super tiny, and it bites him sometimes. But I think he has like 10 career or 12 career playoff wins, and 6 of them are shutouts. The guy can steal a game in the postseason if you need him to. We saw him do it against Tampa Bay a couple times when he was in Detroit, and it was great. But then sometimes he lets in 6, and you're screwed. But I think that he's a guy that, he had a good postseason. He's going to get a solid contract. He's not going to get another 1-year deal. He got that prove-it-to-me contract. He played well enough to earn a sizable contract this offseason. And I think that Holland could, look back to the well there.
Looking around the league, where do you see like a team that arguably needs the most work? To me, I always say Edmonton needs the most work, but that's just because I'm here.
Like overall?
Yeah.
Oof.
Who's the furthest away, really?
Yeah.
Ottawa?
You can't not. Yeah, Ottawa has to be.
They're
the team.
so they're so horrible.
Other than
I hope
Ottawa,
Ottawa never changes, just so we can have more fun stories coming out of Ottawa. It always makes me feel better about myself. You know what I mean?
I don't think they will change until Melnick's out, and I don't think that's ever going to happen. So
There was rumors that the Sens were going to interview Patrick Waugh for their coaching job. They ended up going with Leafs assistant coach DJ Smith for, I imagine, the reason that he did it for like $25,000 a year. But there was discussion that they were going to do. They were going to hire Patrick Waugh. Could you imagine the content out of that? I was just like visualizing him and Melnick getting like into a fight in the dressing room, and the Sens like inexplicably making the playoffs somehow with Waugh as their coach, and then beating the Leafs in the first round or something.
The side stories would be amazing. Like someone's got to be covering the Uber tabs, no? Patrick Waugh's got a couple of dollars in his pocket. He can cover the Uber tab for a guy like Carlson if they ever get a guy like Carlson back again.
Well, I was going to say, Melnick's not covering shit.
Exactly.
He's going to ask for his money back.
Well, he's looking at as a second arena since mid-90s.
Has anybody here have you been to a game in Ottawa?
Yep.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I went to the Canadian Tire Center to watch the Oilers. Taylor Hall scored the overtime winner. It was interesting interacting with Senator fans because they do like the team, but they also realize that they're a minority in the
They
in
also
the
don't
city.
show up for playoff games.
Well, that's
Because it's like if our stadium was in Red Deer.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say when
it's
you
true.
talk to these fans, were you actually at the arena or were you
Yep.
like at a store on the
No,
street
I was in
somewhere?
I took a bus from Ottawa, downtown Ottawa, to Canada, Ontario. Had a drink at a bar, waited for a bus, missed that bus, had to get another bus.
Why'd you miss the
And
bus?
then just because I was drinking at the bar too long.
That's fair.
And then got to the arena, and you have to walk across the entire parking lot, which was empty at that point because
the fans don't
I'm
go.
pre-gaming. And then we were sitting next to a bachelor party, and the bachelor party was like dunking on their own fans. They're like, I couldn't imagine anybody traveling to see the Senators play in Edmonton. And I was like, yeah, that's
So
fair.
it's not only here, hey? Other teams fans say that stuff too?
Well, yeah, but I mean, they're a quiet minority, and this was back before cell phones existed and before Twitter existed.
Sens fans are way harder on the Sens than the Oilers fans are on the Oilers, I think.
Well, they should be.
They're
Sens-
super hard on the ownership for sure.
Yeah, they started like a big movement to get Melnick to sell the team, and I mean we never did that with Cades.
They hired DJ Smith, which is nice because he's from Windsor, Ontario, so representing Windsor.
Like, I don't think
Hopefully
Oiler
he does a good
fans.
job.
I don't think Oiler fans are that hard. Like
I don't think so either.
I know, like there was a story that came out. It was like I think it was the season after our cup run when Rolison regressed and his kids were getting bullied in school or something. Like there was.
But those are kids doing dumb
But
shit.
exactly, kids are idiots. But
That's true.
But yeah, I don't think, and like we've had George Larocque tell us that we're not hard enough on the
Like
team.
the Oilers fans filled up the stadium during the decade of the team being really bad, and then Sens fans are different. They're like, I'm not giving Melnick any money, whereas Oilers fans are like,
We'll show up.
whatever
We'll show
product
up.
you
We just
decide
wanna
to give
bitch
us on
about it
the
when we
ice,
get
I'm going to
there.
pay for it.
We'll
So I
show
think-
up. We just want to bitch about it when we get there.
exactly.
Or just to get us in a bunch of people
Just want to
together.
get mad
Then they can
online.
Get a little bit. Yeah. Twitter, what a place to be.
One thing, speaking about Oiler fans, I just wanted to mention this. I know it's not on our schedule, but did you guys hear about the Oilers sending out letters to season ticket holders that had not renewed, saying, "Listen, we've made some changes this week. Would you guys be interested in coming back? We're going to hold your seats for another week."
Yeah,
I have not heard that, but I do like it.
I read that letter.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law gave up his season tickets after probably 12 years, I think.
When did the letter go out?
It was like
he just got it just this week.
it was like 2
So,
days ago that
post
our guy got
Tippett.
it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So he didn't renew. Not only did he get the letter and the package, he's been getting calls, like a lot of calls from his rep.
That's good.
Just being like, hey, like, what do you think now?
Honestly, you know what? I have no problem with that. I think everybody understands that the last era, the Chia era, did not go the way everybody expected it, to say the least. But we're onto a new page. We're onto a new time. And if you've been around, we want to give you one more opportunity to stick around. I know it sounds pretty egotistical, but at the same time, what happens if we come out and go 82-0 next year?
It has to speak volumes, though, for what they're for how the organization feels. Yeah,
But-
like how everybody just kind of was. I don't know.
I had to
about
throw
that.
in the 82-0 just to
Hey,
see if
man,
anyone's
it's
paying
always a
attention.
possibility. But
Maybe
what
81
my
and one.
question would be, though, is it that they want to give people the opportunity to potentially come back, or are season ticket renewals really going poorly?
Yeah,
Ding, ding,
that's
ding.
what I was. That's what I was going to say. Is it just speaks volumes for the fact that they're
'Cause-
struggling.
Reading the comment section on OilersNation.com and just like interacting on Twitter and doing all the stuff that we do just daily, people are pissed off, man. And yeah, it's nice to get a call from your rep saying, hey, can we have $12,000 from you, please? You get discounts at the cafeteria. You'll enjoy them, I promise, even though we might jack up the price of the food, the 15% that you're going to save. But is that enough? To me, a lot of Oilers fans are looking at it like, you got to show me something. It's nice to bring in Ken Holland. He's a seasoned guy. He's been around. It's nice to bring in Dave Tippett. The man can grow a powerful mustache. And frankly, when you can grow one like that, I feel like you have a responsibility to do so. But that's a different point. Is that enough to make somebody shell out that kind of money again?
Well, and it's not even just the common fan either. And I know you kind of spoke to it, Bag Milk, but I've had random people just DM me to tell me that so and so company is not coming back anymore, and it's big names. These are dollars and cents now that the Oilers are hearing through getting non-renewals that it's actually affecting them.
I think it cements the fact that whole myth about how long the waiting list is an absolute lie. Like, I believe that there were waiting lists for certain parts of the arena,
Yep.
but I've been told by a few people now that, like, even for the last 5 or 6 years, if you wanted to pay a little bit more, you would never have any problem getting season seats to the Edmonton Oilers. It was just like, the upper levels, maybe some of the cheaper seats, right? Like in that
Air
second
quotes.
deck.
That's where I was.
Air quotes.
Air quotes, yeah. The
Yeah,
air quotes
cheaper.
are cheaper seats, because I do know that those are still like $9,000-$10,000 a season for those. But it does kind of, to me, confirm the myth that
Yep.
you can't leave us because there's a waiting list and you ain't getting them back.
Yep.
It's, if you wanted to dip out now, you could come back next year and probably get your exact seats back.
Well,
I can confirm that too. Just
Yeah.
being in the upper bowl, our season seats every year we were offered. It was like a discounted rate to go down like 17 rows, kind of thing in the upper bowl,
Well,
or
somebody-
$100 to go down to the lower bowl.
as somebody who was on the waiting list, I can tell you that in the last 3 years, I mean, there's the playoff year, but then they missed 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
My number skyrocketed. I could have easily gotten season tickets before I pulled my name off. Easily. It's a matter of, do you want to, do something and go on a vacation, or give your kids braces, or do a reno to your house, or do you want to go see the Oilers for 41 nights a year?
At the end of the day, a coach and a GM, they're not selling tickets. Like, I'm not gonna shell out that money that I wasn't before because they hired Ken Holland and Dave Tippett. Like, that's not like the reason I'm gonna be like, you need a product to sign up. Like, you're not gonna pay that money for just because they brought in a new coach and a new GM.
Yeah, I think you're
Nothing's
bang on.
changed yet.
And I think the other thing too, people are sick, and I know like my family has season seats, and like the people I talk to in my family, they're sick of, you pay all this money for the season seats with the hope that the team's good, and then the team's bad, and all of a sudden the seats you're paying $200 a night for, well, crap, they're on StubHub or SeatGeek or whatever, or
They're $40 or
$40, right? So then why do that? Just go buy a power pack. And then maybe towards the end of the year, just spend your money that you're saving anyways. If you do really miss it and do really want to go in there in the stretch drive, just spend your money then, and you're probably still saving money, right? Like, I think just kind of the sense behind having season tickets has kind of evaporated for a lot of people.
Well, yeah, season seats should be, in your opinion, the way to hold a playoff seat for yourself, give you first right of refusal on a playoff seat, and that's what it should be with and that's what it is with most organizations, but not the Oilers.
I'm down with the power packs because I think a lot of people out there is sharing season tickets anyway, right? So essentially all you're doing is buying a power pack anyways.
Yeah, it's a little bit more. Like my quarter season seats were 10 games instead of 6.
Yeah, like
for the
I
power
bought
pack.
the power pack for 8 or 9 games back in Gretzky's last year, so I could be there for Gretzky skating around the ice for 30 minutes while my hands go raw as I try and clap and cry and cry and clap. And it's a great idea.
Rick is an old guy. Cam just wanted to make sure
I
that
am
we're
not
acknowledging that Rick is an old man.
There's at least one other person in this room who's my age as well, so
Yeah, that's
I
right.
like to point that out.
Jay is sitting silently in the corner. He is also very old.
And
Very,
I got
very
one
old.
guy across from me. He was only a couple years younger.
I'm catching up to you. I'm catching up to you. Off the top of the podcast, Tyler played Kawhi Leonard with his little laugh. So I wanted to finish off with a look at the Raptors. We're going to talk a little Raps. Do you guys care about the playoffs? Do you care? Are you on board? I watched last night. It was very entertaining. I thought it was a hell of a performance by the Raptors. Their defense was rock solid. Rebounding was solid. Their shots were clutch. What was that dude's name, Tyler? The guy who got 30 some odd points.
Siakam.
Pascal Siakam.
It was great.
Siakam.
I'm getting to my basketball quota for the year. I will watch this series and I will max out for 2019. And I feel good about it. Are you guys watching?
Yeah, I watched probably the most basketball I've watched this year. I do cover it for a job, and I still don't watch it. So I watched it on
Dan
mute.
runs Utah Jazz
Yeah.
Nation under all of our noses. Nobody knew.
Yeah, I watched it on mute until what I have to watch is the last 3 minutes of the game, last 4 minutes of the game. That's
Being a
exciting.
sports guy, just sitting back and watching this part, you can watch almost any sport. Then you have a bit of attachment to it with being the Raptors, being the only Canadian team and whatnot. It's easy to watch this part. I don't watch a lot throughout the regular season. You kind of watch, you read a little bit here and there. But right now, yeah, I'm fully in right now. I'm not really cheering hard, but I'm going to sit back and watch and quietly hope Toronto can pull it off.
The NBA is the perfect bandwagon league because the regular season doesn't really mean anything. The first round of the playoffs is a warm-up. Second round, maybe a little bit more interesting. Tune in for the conference finals and the finals, and it's like a cultural phenomenon. And it's a cool thing to be a part of because everyone's all in. Celebrities are all in. Twitter's crazy. It's something I think that you don't want to miss out on being a part of.
I think it's a big deal too because nobody wants to see Golden State win again.
Yeah,
like
everybody's on board with.
The
Americans are cheering for the Raptors.
But no, it's cool. I'm not a big basketball guy. I watched
You
even
loved
last night,
the 04 Pistons.
Yeah, way back in the day.
That's your
way
team.
back. Ben Wallace was the boy. But even yesterday was crazy. Flying in, the pilot comes on before we take off, and he's like, "Hey, we'll give you some Raptors updates throughout the flight." And he's like, if you're DVRing it or whatever and want to watch it later, plug your ears. But halfway, I think they gave us a halftime update, and then when we landed, they gave us the update in the third quarter. I'm like, this is kind of cool. The whole country's kind of getting behind them, which you would never be you'd never hear that otherwise.
There's only two teams that can do it, and it's the Raptors and the Jays, because every other team's divisive.
Hold on, the Edmonton Stingers? Come on now. Everybody's following the Edmonton Stingers.
Yeah. I've always been a basketball fan, but this year it's just been so much fun to have all the hype around it too. It's been great, and you're right. The country kind of rallying around it. You could honestly the Jays. There's still Expos fans lingering.
Oh yeah,
So
there's tons of there's Minnesota Twins fans in the prairies. There's Mariners fans out west. But I do think that more so than there's no NHL team that will ever be a Team Canada.
No. And the Raptors and Jays have that, and they have the ability to lock it down. But this year with the Raptors, and maybe it's because they've never done it before. This is the pinnacle of the Raptors franchise thus far. This is the farthest they've gone. This is the best team they've ever had. And I think that's part of the fun as well, is that no generation's ever seen the Raptors have this kind of success. And that's I think, part of the reason
They're
why
also
there is even more hype.
Just from an objective sports watching standpoint, they're good.
They're good, and
Kawhi
basketball
Leonard
is fun to watch.
It's good. Their team's loaded with talent. You got
Yeah.
Kawhi Leonard, Mark Gasol, Serge Ibaka, Kyle Lowry, Pascal Siakam on one team. That's a damn good team.
Basketball is fun to watch in the last 4 minutes.
Basketball is fun to watch the whole damn game.
I think it's intriguing too, with the whole Kawhi Leonard situation, right? It's if they win, maybe he stays, or everyone, even on the plane in Toronto, all the talk was about the game. Is Kawhi going to stay? It adds another layer to an already exciting time.
I think it's all just who cares if he leaves? It's all about right now. If he does it, that's legendary, because that means he beat LeBron's Miami team and he beat Golden State, and that's two of probably the best 5 teams of all time.
I'll end this on a bit of an anti-hockey take that'll probably get some people mad at me, but obviously
before you start, his Twitter handle is at Tyler Yaremchuk.
Yeah,
Go
there we
ahead.
go. I think obviously I'm a big hockey fan and hockey above everything else, but I think basketball, the first 3 quarters of basketball can be just as much fun on a regular basis as the first 2 periods of an NHL game on any given game.
Wow, that's bad.
Good basketball is fun to watch.
Yeah, good basketball.
Last night was fun to watch.
Good hockey.
When
College basketball is fun to
when it's
watch.
118 to 110, and it's raining 3-pointers. that's exciting to watch.
It
But
is.
then sometimes you get a game that's just an absolute snooze fest.
Yeah, I
You
will
get
give
that in hockey too
For
when
sure.
it's a 2-1 game between like Minnesota and Chicago in like the middle of February. Who
But like
cares?
when you're talking playoff hockey, like even the low scoring games are fun because usually it's
They
low
are.
scoring because it's super physical or there's something going on or a goalie standing on his head. Where like a low scoring game in basketball is just boring because it's ineptitude.
See, and to me, the first 2 games of the Stanley Cup Final have been just as exciting through and through as that game 1 in the NBA.
I think the NHL playoffs have a really good first and second round. Kind of slows down after, but then the NBA's got the better conference and finals.
The thing everyone's going to not like, at least me, is all the timeouts and the stoppage of plays. The last minute of a basketball game could literally take 10 minutes to play.
There was I think somebody timed it. Game 7 of the conference finals. The last minute took about 14 minutes or something like that. That'll
You lose all the momentum. You're going to lose all your marginal fans. For a real fan, you understand it. You whatever, you can deal with it. But for the marginal people like the rest of us, we sit there and go, okay, this is horribly boring. It's exciting, horribly boring, commercial.
And then
exciting, horrible, commercial.
The NHL can't even take 30 seconds to see if it was a hand pass.
And that's how we're going to wrap it up. I want to go ahead and thank our friends at Sherwood Ford the Giant, not only for being an excellent sponsor, but for coming through on the tip stash on the front of the Nation truck. It is sexy. It is manly. It looks fantastic. And I want to thank our friends at thepogstore.com as well. Head on over there, freshen your life, improve your environment. Thanks, Brock, for being here. Appreciate you, buddy. Thanks to everybody. Have a great weekend.
Shout out Damien.
Best wishes.